The morning sun cast long shadows across the construction site on Kepler 442b. Commander J-Ho stood at the edge of the work area, watching humans and aliens work side by side. This was supposed to be easy: build a memorial, honor the dead, move on, but nothing about this project was easy. "The foundation is cracking again," called out architect Jin Woo as he walked over, dust covering his work clothes. He pointed to the human section of the memorial site. "Same place as yesterday. The alien materials are doing something to our concrete." J-Ho frowned and walked over to look. Sure enough, thin lines spread through the gray concrete where it met the alien building materials. The cracks looked like spider webs, growing bigger each day. "Have you talked to Crix about this?" J-Ho asked. "I tried. He says our materials are too rigid. Says we should use their bioconcrete instead." Jin Woo kicked at a loose piece of stone. "But their stuff dissolves after 50 years. How is that supposed to honor our dead?" Before J-Ho could answer, a tall, thin figure approached them. Crix moved with the strange, flowing walk of his people. His skin was pale blue, and his large eyes never seemed to blink. The Velthari had been helpful during the war, but working with them was different from fighting beside them. "Commander J-Ho," Crix said in his careful English, "we need to discuss the foundation problems." "We were just talking about that," J-Ho replied. "Jinwoo says your materials are affecting our concrete." Crix tilted his head, a gesture that meant confusion among his people. "Your concrete is affecting our biomatrix? Your materials are too." He paused, searching for the right word. "Too permanent. They fight against natural change." "That's the point," Jinwoo said, his voice getting louder. "A memorial should last forever. The people who died in the war deserve that much." "But why?" Crix asked. "On my world, we honor the dead by letting their memory flow back into the living world. Your way traps their spirits in stone." Dr. Hai Min walked up to the group, carrying a tablet full of test results. She was young for a materials scientist, but she knew more about building materials than anyone else on the planet. "I've been running tests on the interface problems," she said. "The issue isn't just compatibility. Our materials and theirs work on completely different principles." "Explain," J-Ho said. Hai Min pointed to her tablet. "Human concrete and steel are designed to resist change. We add chemicals to stop rust, use reinforcement to prevent cracks, and seal everything to keep out water. We build to last." "And our materials are designed to adapt," Crix added. "They grow stronger when stressed, repair themselves when damaged, and eventually return to the earth when no longer needed. So, when they touch each other, quotes Jinwoo started. "Conflict," Hai Min finished. "Our materials try to stay the same. Theirs try to change. The result is stress cracks and molecular breakdown." Dr. Na-Ri joined the group, having overheard the conversation. She was the team's expert on alien cultures, and her job was to help everyone understand each other. "This isn't just about materials," she said. "It's about how we think about death and memory." "What do you mean?" J-Ho asked. Na-Ri looked around the construction site. "I've been interviewing the alien workers. For most species, permanent structures feel wrong. They think keeping something exactly the same forever is like refusing to let go of the past. But humans build monuments that last thousands of years," Jinwoo said. "The pyramids, stone temples, war memorials. We've always done this, and that makes you strange," Crix said. Not in a mean way, but like he was stating a fact. "Most species build to honor change and growth. You build to stop time." Hai Min looked at her tablet again. "There might be a reason for that. I've been studying human construction techniques throughout history. We've always used materials that resist decay. Even ancient humans chose rocks and metals that last longer than wood or plants." "So?" Jinwoo asked. "So maybe there's something about human biology or psychology that makes us need permanent things," she said. "Maybe we're different in a fundamental way." The group stood in silence for a moment, watching the mixed crews work. Humans moved in straight lines, carrying heavy materials with machines. The aliens flowed around obstacles, using tools that seemed to grow and change as they worked. The memorial committee meets tomorrow, Jeho said finally. Representatives from 12 species will be there. They expect to see progress. What do we tell them? Jinwoo asked. That we can't build together because we think differently about death. We tell them the truth, Nari said. That this project is harder than anyone expected. The truth might end the project, Crix warned. Some of my people already think humans are too stubborn to work with. And some humans think aliens don't respect the dead enough, Jinwoo shot back. Enough, Jeho said firmly. We're not giving up. Too many people died in the war for us to quit over construction problems. He looked at each person in the group. Hi Min, keep studying the material interactions. Maybe there's a solution we haven't thought of. Na-ri, learn more about how different species view death and memory. Jinwoo, think about memorial designs. That might work for everyone. And me? Crix asked. You help us understand your people better, Jeho said. This memorial needs to honor everyone who died, not just humans. But it also needs to last long enough to matter. As the sun climbed higher, the work crews returned to their tasks. But the problems were getting worse, not better. The cracks in the foundation seemed to grow wider each hour. And with each crack, the dream of a unified memorial seemed to crack. Jeho stood alone, watching the humans and aliens work in their different ways. The war had brought the species together to fight a common enemy. Now, in peace, they had to learn to build together. But how do you build a bridge between species that can't even agree on whether bridges should last forever? Tomorrow's meeting would bring answers. Or it would bring the end of the project. Either way, Jeho knew that the real test was just beginning. The meeting room was too small for 12 different species. Commander Jeho sat at one end of the long table, watching alien representatives shift and move in ways that made him dizzy. Some breathed through their skin. Others never stopped moving. The Corvani delegate kept making clicking sounds that meant either agreement or hunger. Jeho could never remember which. The Foundation problems are getting worse, announced Council Leader Dex, a tall creature with 4 arms and golden skin. Our engineers report that human construction methods are damaging the biomatrix foundation systems. Jinwoo stood up, his face red with anger. Our methods aren't damaging anything. Your living concrete is attacking our materials. Living materials adapt to improve efficiency, said Crix from across the table. Human materials resist all change. This creates conflict. Good, Jinwoo said firmly. Some things should resist change. Some things should last forever. A low humming sound filled the room. Dr. Na-ri recognized it as the sound the Velthari made when they were upset. Several alien delegates started talking at once in their own languages. Perhaps we should reconsider the project design, suggested the Corvani delegate through a translation device. Use only biomaterials for the entire structure. No, Jinwoo said immediately. A memorial that dissolves in 50 years isn't a memorial, it's just a temporary marker. But why must it last forever? Asked the Velthari delegate. Change is the nature of life. Death is part of change. To stop change is to dishonor the natural order. Dr. Hai-min, who had been quiet until now, stood up with her tablet. May I share something? Jeho nodded. Go ahead. I've been studying the Foundation problems from a different angle, she said. I think I found something important. She touched her tablet and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed the construction site from below ground with different colored lines showing stress patterns. Look at this, she said, pointing to the human section. Our concrete and steel aren't just resisting change. They're creating patterns. The hologram zoomed in on the human foundation. Thin lines of energy ran through the concrete like a spider web, pulsing with soft light. What are those? Asked Vex. Resonance patterns, Hai-min said. The stress from building permanent structures creates vibrations in the materials. These vibrations form patterns that can last for centuries. So? The Corvani delegate clicked. So these patterns might be storing information, Hai-min continued. I tested some old human buildings on Earth. The patterns are everywhere. In the Great Wall, the pyramids, even modern buildings. It's like the structures are recording things. Crix leaned forward, his large eyes focused on the hologram. Recording what? I'm not sure yet. But the patterns change when people visit the buildings? They respond to human presence somehow. Dr. Nari felt a chill run down her spine. Are you saying human buildings are alive? Not alive like biomaterials, Hyman said, but not completely dead either. They're remembering. The room fell silent except for the various breathing, clicking, and humming sounds of the alien delegates. This is disturbing, said the Valthari delegate. You trap memories in stone like prisoners. Or maybe we preserve them like treasures. Jin Wu said quietly. Over the next 3 days, work on the memorial continued despite the growing problems. The cracks in the foundation spread farther each day. Human workers started wearing protective gear because the alien biomaterials released spores that made them sick. Alien workers complained that human construction zones felt dead and cold. Dr. Nari spent her time interviewing workers from different species. Each conversation made the cultural divide clearer. On my homeworld, explained Zeph, a blue-skinned engineer, we build our homes to grow with our families. When children are born, the house grows new rooms. When elders die, those rooms fade away. The house lives with us, but what happens to memories of the elders? Nari asked. They become part of the living house. Not trapped, but free to flow and change. Your way feels like keeping a dead body. And calling it a person? Nari wrote down every word. That evening, she shared her findings with the human team. Every species I talk to sees permanence as a form of death, she said. To them, true honor means allowing change and growth. They think our memorials are like elaborate tombs. Maybe they are, Jinwoo said sadly. But our dead deserve tombs. They deserve to be remembered exactly as they were. Do they? Hai-Min asked. What if remembering perfectly isn't the same as honoring? The next morning brought bad news. Crix arrived at the construction site with an official notice. The Velthari Council has voted, he announced to Jae-ho. If the foundation problems are not solved in 5 days, we will withdraw our support and materials. 5 days? Jae-ho said. That's not enough time. It is more time than you deserve, Crix replied coldly. Your people refuse to compromise. You insist on building your tomb monuments while our materials suffer. Our materials are suffering too, Jinwoo said angrily. Your bioconcrete is eating our steel supports. Because your steel is poison to living systems, Crix shot back. It spreads death to everything it touches. The argument continued, but Hai-Min wasn't listening. She was staring at her tablet, looking at the resonance patterns again. Something about them was familiar. The patterns, she whispered. What? Jae-ho asked. The resonance patterns in our foundation. They look like neural networks. She showed the tablet to the group. The energy lines in the concrete did look like brain cells connecting to each other. What does that mean? Nari asked. I think, Hai-Min said slowly, I think human buildings might actually be thinking. The revelation hit the group like a shock wave. If Hai-Min was right, then humans hadn't just been building monuments. They had been accidentally creating a form of artificial consciousness, and they had no idea what it was trying to remember. Dr. Hai-Min hadn't slept in 36 hours. She sat in her lab surrounded by screens, empty coffee cups, and pieces of concrete from the memorial site. The resonance patterns were everywhere she looked, but now she was starting to understand what they meant. The crystalline structure? She muttered to herself, pointing at the molecular diagram on her main screen. It's not random, it's organized. Commander Jae-ho found her there at dawn, still staring at data that made no sense to him. Hai-Min, you need to sleep, he said. Can't sleep. Too important. She turned to face him, her eyes red and tired, but excited. Jae-ho, I figured it out. I know what human buildings are doing. She pulled up a new screen showing the atomic structure of their concrete. Tiny crystals formed perfect geometric patterns, like snowflakes made of stone and metal. Look. At this, she said. When we mix concrete with steel and other materials, we create these crystal patterns. They're not just strong, they're information storage devices. Information storage? Quantum information storage, she said, getting more excited. Each crystal can hold massive amounts of data, and the patterns connect them all together like a giant computer network. Jeho sat down heavily in a chair. Are you saying our buildings are computers? Better than computers, they're conscious storage systems. They record and remember everything that happens around them. Before Jeho could respond, Jinwoo burst into the lab with Dr. Nari close behind him. The Foundation is doing something new, Jinwoo said breathlessly. You need to see this. They rushed to the construction site where a crowd of human and alien workers had gathered around the memorial foundation. The concrete was glowing with soft blue light and the resonance. Patterns were visible to the naked eye like veins of electricity running through stone. When did this start? Hai-min asked. About an hour ago, said Tae Hyeon, one of the construction foremen. Right after the morning shift arrived, the alien workers are scared. They say it feels like the ground is watching them. Crick stood at the edge of the crowd, his blue skin paler than usual. This is unnatural, he said to Jeho. Your materials are becoming something they should not be. Maybe they're becoming what they were always meant to be, Hai-min said. She walked closer to the glowing foundation and held up a scanning device. The quantum signatures are incredible, she said, reading the display. The Foundation isn't just storing information randomly. It's recording specific patterns from every person who comes near it. What kind of patterns? Nari asked. Brain patterns, emotional states, memories. Hai-min looked up at the group with wonder in her eyes. It's recording pieces of everyone's consciousness. Jinwoo stepped closer to the Foundation. You mean it's reading our minds? Not reading, copying. Every time someone visits, the Foundation creates a quantum copy of part of their mental state. It's like ... She paused, searching for the right words. Like taking a photograph of someone's thoughts and feelings. That's horrifying, said one of the Velthari workers. That's amazing, said Jinwoo, at the same time Dr. Nari was thinking. Hard. If human buildings have always done this, even in small amounts, then every monument on Earth ... is a repository of human consciousness, Hai-min finished. Every visitor to the pyramids, every person who walked through ancient temples, every soldier who visited war memorials, they all left traces of themselves behind. The implications hit everyone at once. Jeho felt like the ground was shifting under his feet. So when we build monuments to remember the dead, he said slowly, we're not just making symbols, we're making places that literally remember. And, preserve those memories forever, Jinwoo added. That's why we build to last. Somehow, we always knew we needed permanent structures. Crix moved closer, despite his obvious fear. Show me proof, he demanded. Show me that this foundation truly holds consciousness. Hai-min connected her scanner to a portable display unit. Everyone stepped back except Jinwoo. Jinwoo, walk across the foundation and think about someone you lost in the war. Jinwoo looked nervous but stepped onto the glowing concrete. He closed his eyes and walked slowly across the surface. The patterns under his feet brightened and swirled. Now step off, Hai-min said. She adjusted her scanner and aimed it at the spot where Jinwoo had walked. The display screen lit up with swirling colors and shapes. And then, impossible as it seemed, an image formed. It was fuzzy and unclear, but everyone could see it was the face of a young woman. Sun-hee, Jinwoo whispered. My sister. She died in the Battle of Rigel. The image shifted, showing the woman. Laughing, then serious, then sad. It was like watching someone's memories play out in real time. The Foundation recorded your memory of her, Hai-min explained. And now it's playing it back. Your sister's face, as you remember it, is permanently stored in the quantum crystals. Several alien workers backed away from the Foundation, but others moved closer, fascinated. This is what you meant by building to last, Crick said quietly. You were not just making monuments. You were making eternal storage for your dead. For everyone, Nari corrected. Human buildings preserve the memories of everyone who visits them. We just never realized it before. Jinwoo stared at the image of his sister still playing on the display. If we modify the memorial design to enhance this effect, we could create chambers that specifically focus the resonance patterns, Hai-min said excitedly. Places where people could leave detailed memory recordings of their loved ones. A true memorial, Jae-ho said. Not just a place to remember the dead, but a place where the dead actually live on through the memories of the living. But even as the human team grew excited about the possibilities, more alien workers were backing away from the site. Some looked afraid, others looked angry. "This is wrong," said one of the Corvani workers. "You trap souls in stone prisons." "No," said Jinwoo firmly, "we give souls eternal homes." The two philosophies stood opposed on the glowing foundation. Aliens, who believed consciousness should flow and change, and humans who believed it should be preserved forever, and in the quantum crystals beneath their feet. The Foundation continued recording everything, storing it all away in patterns that would last until the stars went cold. The question now was whether the galaxy was ready for humanity's accidental gift of immortal memory. The news spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within 3 days of the demonstration, ships began arriving at Kepler 442b from dozens of star systems. Some came to study the human consciousness preservation technology. Others came to destroy it. Commander Jae-ho stood in the communications center, reading reports that made his head spin. 17 different species have requested access to the memorial site, he told his team. And 12 more have demanded we shut it down immediately. Why do they want to shut it down? Asked Jinwoo. Dr. Nari pulled up a translation of the latest protest message. The Zephyrian Council calls it digital necromancy that prevents souls from joining the cosmic flow. The Corvani Assembly says we're stealing pieces of living minds. And the Velthari Senate voted to classify it as a weapon of mass consciousness destruction. A weapon? Hai-min looked confused. It's just storing memories. To some species, that's the same thing as stealing someone's soul, Nari explained. The Velthari believe consciousness should be free to change and grow after death. Trapping it in quantum crystals feels like torture to them. Crix hadn't spoken to the human team in 2 days. He spent his time sending encrypted messages to his homeworld and avoiding the glowing foundation. But this morning he approached Jae-ho with official documents. "My government has issued new orders," Crix said formally. "All Velthari personnel must withdraw from the project within 48 hours. Because of the consciousness storage?" Jae-ho asked. "Because of what it represents," Crix replied. "You humans see death as an ending that must be prevented. We see it as a transition that must be honored. Your technology fights against the natural order. But it could help preserve the memories of your war heroes too," Jinwoo said. "Don't you want to remember them?" "We do remember them," Crix answered, "in stories that change with each telling, in lessons that grow with each generation, in the way their wisdom shapes our living culture. Your way freezes them like insects in amber." Dr. Hai-min had been quiet during the exchange, but now she stepped forward. "What if you're both right?" Everyone looked at her. "What if consciousness should be free to change, but also should be preserved?" she continued. "What if the quantum storage doesn't trap souls, but gives them a place to continue existing alongside the living?" "Explain," Jae-ho said. Hai-min led them to her latest test setup. She had built a small version of the memorial foundation in her lab, complete with the same quantum crystal patterns. "I've been experimenting with the consciousness recordings," she said. "Look at this." She activated the display, showing the recorded memory of Jinwoo's sister, but this time the image was different. Son, his face was clearer, more detailed than before. "The recording is improving," Hai-min explained. "Every time someone visits and thinks about her, the quantum patterns add more detail to her memory. She's not frozen, she's growing." Jinwoo stared at the image with tears in his eyes. "She looks more real than when I first saw her, because she is more real," Hai-min said. The Foundation doesn't just store one person's memory of her. It collects everyone's memories and combines them into a complete picture. She becomes more herself with each visitor, Nari gasped. That's not preservation, that's evolution. Exactly, Haimin said excitedly. The consciousness recordings don't stop change, they enable it. Every new memory adds to the pattern. Every visitor helps the stored consciousness grow and develop. Crix moved closer to the display, his large eyes fixed on the image of Sunhee. She looks alive. In a way she is, Haimin said. Not alive like you and me, but not dead either. She exists in the space between life and death, growing stronger as more people remember her. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Emergency lights flashed red as security officers ran through the corridors. What's happening? Jae-ho shouted over the noise. A young officer burst into the lab. Commander, we have ships approaching. Unidentified vessels refusing to respond to communication attempts. They rushed to the command center where the main screen showed 3 dark ships descending toward the planet. The ships had no markings, but their design was clearly alien. Weapon signatures detected, reported the tactical officer. They're targeting the memorial site. Who are they? Jae-ho demanded. Unknown. But they're broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Same message over and over. The communications officer played the recording. A harsh voice spoke in accented galactic standard. The abomination must be destroyed. Consciousness belongs to the living. The dead must remain dead. Religious extremists, Nari said grimly. I was afraid of this. Some species have very strong beliefs about death and the afterlife. To them, consciousness preservation is the ultimate blasphemy. The ships opened fire without warning. Energy beams lanced down from orbit, striking the memorial site. But instead of destroying the Foundation, something unexpected happened. The quantum crystals absorbed the energy and began glowing brighter than ever before. The consciousness patterns became visible from orbit, spreading out from the Foundation like a massive spider web of light. What's happening? Jin-woo asked. Haimin was staring at her readouts in amazement. The attack is powering the system. The energy is activating every quantum crystal in the Foundation at once. On the main screen, they could see something forming above the memorial site. Shapes made of light were rising from the Foundation, dozens of them, then hundreds. Those are the consciousness recordings, Haimin whispered, all of them. Everyone who ever visited the site, everyone who left a memory behind. The attack woke them all up. The shapes of light rose higher, becoming clearer. They looked like people, humans and aliens who had visited the memorial. And they were all looking up at the attacking ships. The war veterans, Jin-woo said in wonder. I can see them. All the soldiers who died in the Void War. They're protecting the memorial. The attacking ships stopped firing as if their crews were seeing the same impossible sight. Hundreds of consciousness recordings floated in the air above the memorial, not quite alive, not quite dead, but undeniably present. And for the first time since the project began, human and alien workers stood together, united in awe at what they had accidentally created. The dead were speaking, and they had something to say. The consciousness recordings floated above the memorial like an army of ghosts. Commander Jae-ho had never seen anything so beautiful or terrifying in his life. Hundreds of shapes made of light drifted in the air, some clearly human, others obviously alien, all of them watching the attack ships with what looked like anger. They're not attacking, Dr. Nari whispered, staring at the display screens. The ships have stopped firing. The crews are probably too shocked to move, said Dr. Haimin. How do you attack the dead when they're staring back at you? One of the consciousness recordings descended toward the command center. As it got closer, Jae-ho could see it was the shape of a woman in military uniform. She had the bearing of an officer and scars that suggested many battles. I know her, Jin-woo said quietly. Colonel Min-young, she died holding the line at Arcturus. Station, saved 3,000 civilians. The recording of Colonel Min-young turned toward Jin-woo. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Instead, words appeared on the nearby screens in multiple languages. Who attacks our place of rest? The consciousness recordings can communicate, Hyman said in amazement. The quantum crystals are translating their thoughts into text. More. Recordings descended. Each one triggered memories from the human workers who recognized fallen comrades. Alien workers began pointing at shapes that looked familiar to them too. That's Crix the Brave, said one of the Velthari technicians, pointing at a blue, flowing shape. He died protecting the evacuation ships at Beta Centauri. The recordings seemed to hear him. The shape of Crix moved closer to the Velthari worker, and more words appeared on the screens. We fought together, we died together. Why do the living fight over our memories? Crix, who had been standing apart from everyone else, stepped forward. Because some believe memories should flow like water, and others believe they should stand like stone. The consciousness recordings began to gather closer together. Human and alien forms mixed and swirled around each other. When they touched, their light grew brighter. Memory is not water or stone, the combined message read. Memory is bridge between what was and what will be. Dr. Nari was furiously taking notes. They're trying to tell us something important. The attack ships in orbit began moving again, but not to attack. They were retreating, backing away from the planet as if afraid of what they were seeing. Incoming transmission from the lead ship, reported the communications officer, the main. Screen showed the interior of an alien vessel. The captain looked like nothing Jeho had ever seen, tall, thin, with skin like tree bark and eyes that glowed green. This is Captain Vorth of the Purification Fleet, the alien said. We came to destroy an abomination. But what we see ... is not trapped souls. These are willing spirits. The consciousness recordings chose to appear, Hyman realized. The quantum crystals didn't force them out. They came because they wanted to protect the memorial. Colonel. Min Young's recording moved to the center of the group. Her words appeared larger on the screens. We gave our lives to protect the living. Now we give our memories to guide them. This is not prison. This is service. The alien captain's green eyes widened. Service beyond death. We misunderstood. Forgive us. But before anyone could respond, new alarms began blaring. More ships were approaching, dozens of them from multiple species. These ones aren't here to attack, the tactical officer reported. They're requesting landing permission. Scientists, diplomats, religious leaders. They all want to see the memorial. Over the next few hours, the landing pad filled with visitors from across the galaxy. Each species sent their most important people to witness what was happening at the memorial site. The consciousness recordings remained visible, floating above the Foundation like guardian spirits. As each new group of visitors arrived, more recordings appeared, their own dead rising to greet them. Dr. Hai, Min monitored the quantum crystal activity with growing excitement. The system is learning, she told Jeho. Each new visitor teaches it how to better preserve and display consciousness. It's getting stronger. And the recordings are getting more detailed, added Jin Wu. He was still watching the image of Colonel Min Young, who now looked as solid and real as any living person. A delegation of Corvani elders approached the memorial. They moved slowly, clicking softly among themselves. As they got closer to the Foundation, new shapes began forming in the air above them. Our ancestors, whispered the lead elder. But how? We burn our dead. We release their spirits to the cosmic. Winds, spirits travel in many ways, appeared on the translation screens. The Corvani ancestors' recordings were different from the others, more flowing, more abstract, but clearly present. Your memorial calls to all who died for peace. More delegations arrived throughout the day. The Velthari brought their greatest philosophers. The Zephyrians sent their high priests. Even species that had never participated in the Void War came to see what humanity had accidentally created. As the sun set, thousands of consciousness recordings floated above the memorial. They came from dozens of different species, representing countless individuals who had died in the Great War. But they weren't fighting or arguing like their living descendants had been. They were working together. Look at them, Nari said in wonder. Human and alien recordings standing side by side. No conflict, no philosophical differences about permanence versus change. Because they're beyond those arguments now, Jeho realized. Death made them something new, something that understands both perspectives. The consciousness recordings began to move in complex patterns, their lights weaving together like a dance. Words appeared on every screen in the command center. Memory serves life, life serves memory, the bridge connects all. Dr. Hai-Min looked at her readings one more time. The quantum crystal network is stable. The consciousness recordings are permanent but still growing. We did it, we built a memorial that truly honors the dead. And teaches the living, added Jinwoo Dot as night fell over Kepler 442b. Representatives from dozens of species stood together at the memorial site. Above them, their honored dead showed them that unity was possible, not just in life but beyond it. The war had ended with an alliance of necessity. But the memorial was creating something much more important, an alliance of understanding that would last forever. 6 months later, Commander Jeho stood at the completed memorial watching the morning sun shine through the consciousness recordings that still floated above the quantum crystal foundation. The memorial had grown far beyond what anyone had originally planned. Where once there had been a simple foundation, now stood a complex of interconnected chambers. Each chamber was designed to focus the quantum resonance patterns in different ways. Some preserved individual memories with perfect clarity. Others blended memories from multiple species to create shared experiences. The dedication ceremony starts in 1 hour, Dr. Hai-Min said, joining Jeho at the observation platform. Representatives from over 200 species will be attending. Are we ready? Jeho asked. The quantum crystal network is stable across all chambers, she replied. The consciousness preservation system is working better than we ever imagined, and the recordings ... She gestured upward at the floating shapes of light. They're excited. I can feel it in the resonance patterns. Jinwoo approached with the final architectural reports. All construction is complete. The memorial of eternal memory is officially finished. Eternal memory, Jeho repeated. I like that name better than our original one. The name had been suggested by the consciousness recordings themselves. After months of observation, Dr. Nari had learned to interpret their communications. They didn't want to be called the fallen or the lost. They were the eternally remembered, and they wanted their memorial to reflect that. Where's Crix? Hai-Min asked. I haven't seen him this morning. He's in Chamber 7, Jinwoo said with a smile. He's been there for 3 hours, talking to the Velthari consciousness recordings. Jeho was surprised. I thought his people were still opposed to the project. They were, until they understood what we'd really built, Nari said, walking up to join the group. The consciousness recordings aren't trapped. They're free to grow and change while maintaining their core memories. It's exactly what Velthari philosophy says should happen after death. The memorial's central plaza began filling with visitors. Humans, Velthari, Corvani, Zephyrians, and dozens of other species gathered in groups, preparing for the dedication ceremony. But unlike the tense meetings of 6 months ago, these groups mixed freely with each other. The recordings changed everything, Nari observed. When living people can see their honored dead working together in harmony, it becomes hard to maintain old prejudices. Dr. Hai-Min checked her scanner readings. The quantum activity is increasing. The consciousness recordings always become more active when large crowds gather. Above them, hundreds of light shapes began moving in complex patterns. They formed spirals and circles, human and alien forms dancing together in ways that would have been impossible in life. They're preparing for the ceremony too, Jinwoo said in wonder. At exactly noon, the dedication ceremony began. Council leader Thex stood at the center of the plaza, addressing the crowd through translators. We gather today to honor those who gave their lives so that peace could exist between our peoples, Thex announced. But this memorial represents more than memory, it represents hope. The consciousness recordings descended closer to the crowd. As they did, something remarkable happened. Visitors began to feel emotions that weren't their own, brief flashes of courage, love, determination, and sacrifice from the recorded minds of the war dead. The quantum resonance is creating a feedback loop, Hyman whispered to Jeho. The recordings are sharing their feelings with the living. An elderly Corvani woman began to cry as she felt the final moments of her son, who had died protecting a human evacuation ship. A young human man smiled as he experienced the joy his grandfather had felt when the war finally ended. This is what we built, Jeho realized. Not just a place to remember, but a place to truly understand. Crix emerged from Chamber 7 with tears on his blue face. He approached the human team with new respect in his large eyes. I spoke with Velthari Commander Uthal, he said quietly. He died at the Battle of Sol, protecting human civilians. He told me ... He showed me why he made that choice. What did he show you? Nari asked gently. Love, Crix said simply. Love for all living things, regardless of species. In that moment of sacrifice, he understood that consciousness isn't meant to belong to just one people. It belongs to everyone. The ceremony continued with speakers from each species, but the real communication was happening through the quantum resonance. The consciousness recordings shared memories, emotions, and understanding with every visitor. By the end of the day, something fundamental had changed. Representatives who had arrived as reluctant allies left as genuine friends. The memorial hadn't just preserved the memory of the war dead, it had preserved their wisdom, their love, and their vision of unity. What happens now? Jin Wu asked as the crowds began to disperse. Now we build more memorials, Jeho replied. Every species has requested their own quantum crystal memorial chamber. They want to preserve the consciousness patterns of their honored dead too. And we'll help them, Hyman added. Humanity's gift to the galaxy isn't just the consciousness preservation technology. It's the understanding that memory and change can work together. Dr. Nari was already making plans. I've been invited to establish cultural exchange programs at 50 different worlds. The consciousness recordings have taught us more about interspecies understanding in 6 months than we learned in centuries of diplomacy. As the sun set, the memorial's quantum crystals began their nightly display. Patterns of light flowed through the chambers and foundation, carrying the preserved consciousness of thousands of beings who had chosen to serve even in death. They're happy, Hyman observed, watching the gentle pulse of the quantum patterns. The recordings are content, because they're still serving, Jeho said. Still protecting, still teaching. That's what they wanted all along. Crix, who had been quietly observing the light display, spoke up. Humans build to last because you understand something the rest of us forgot. What's that? Jin Wu asked. Something should never be allowed to end. Love, courage, sacrifice, unity, these deserve to be preserved forever. Crix looked up at the consciousness recordings still floating above them. You built this memorial to endure because the best parts of life should endure too. The memorial of eternal memory stood complete under the alien stars, its quantum crystals humming with the preserved consciousness of heroes from dozens of worlds. It would stand for millennia, growing stronger with each visitor, preserving not just memory but the eternal hope for peace between all living things, and in the chambers built to last forever. The consciousness recordings continued their eternal service, teaching the living that death is not an ending, but a transformation into something greater than any one species could achieve alone. Humanity had given the galaxy the gift of permanent memory. In return, the galaxy had taught humanity that some gifts are too precious to keep to themselves. The memorial would endure, and so would the peace it represented. Built to remember, built to teach, built to unite, exactly as it was always meant to be.